Security Council to scale up assistance to Africa to stem insurgency and threats of extremism.
I echo to the contribution of female doctors on National Women Physicians Day.
Provisional results of 2021 West Africa Senior School Certificate Examination WAEC officially released.
And at least 21 passengers, including children, burnt to death in bus attack in Nigeria.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to News Hour live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. We are also live on GTV and streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. You're welcome. My name is Micheline Taka.
And my name is Clara Mlano. Robert Frimpong Manso will interpret the news into sign language. Good evening.
It is in detail now. President Akufo-Addo is challenging the United Nations Security Council to continue to support Africa, especially the ECOWAS sub-region in these times of insurgency and threats from extremism.
At the Kofi Annan Peace and Security Forum in Accra, President Akufo-Addo said now is not the time for the United Nations Security Council to cut back on its security mission on the continent, but rather scaled up to deal with the emerging threats in the sub-region.
Peace and Security Forum was initiated in 2019, an annual gathering of political leaders, diplomats, scholars and experts to dialogue and strategize to address contemporary peace and security issues in Africa. The 2021 edition of the forum will adopt a hybrid format and focus on the theme democracy in the context of complex crises in West Africa. The KAPS Forum will contribute to the ongoing discussion on how to strengthen the role of democratic institutions in their function as gatekeepers in promoting and maintaining peace and stability. Recent developments in Guinea and Mali have made such discussion more critical and pertinent. Major General Francis Ofori, the commandant of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, said democratic overthrow in the sub-region poses a serious threat to stability and peace to the region.
From our bespoke research, we understand, Mr. President, that the authority and credibility of regional institutions in enforcing the norms and values on democracy and good governance is increasingly being questioned. In this regard, sir, the CAS Forum this year provides an avenue for all of us to revive our energies and advocacies within the framework of putting pressure respectfully on our leaders and institutions to ensure that we consolidate our burgeoning democracies.
The concern for the board chair of the Kofi Annan Foundation, Mr. El Haji Asi, is for peace and security to remain high on the agenda of governments in the region.
What this means, ladies and gentlemen, is that we do not shore up the democratic legitimacy of our political systems by ensuring the integrity of elections, the respect of fundamental human rights and freedoms, the political but also economic and social inclusion of disenfranchised groups in our societies, particularly the youth, women.
President Akufo-Addo says violent extremism is rising, multiple threats are increasing, and the UN Security Council must intensify its security mission in the sub-region.
With the continent confronted by multiple threats to the territorial integrity of some of its states, and many of its civilian populations being put under serious threat, it will be our position on the Council that now is not the time for the Security Council to reduce its peacekeeping mandates on the continent. On the contrary, it should look to increasing them. We must not, on the global scale, be caught in a penny-wise, pound-foolish scenario.
Attendants at the two-day peace forum are security experts from across the world. Former President John Agyekum Kufuor, Liberia's Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Ernest Bai Koroma Sierra Leone, two former Prime Ministers of Guinea and ECOWAS, Special Envoy to Guinea Dr. Ibn Chambers, are also sharing their thoughts. They are expected to come up with effective measures on how to ensure peace and security on the continent.
Also, at the second Kofi Annan Peace and Security Forum in Accra, President Kufuor Addo said he will not amend Ghana's electoral law and that he will respect the two-term limits and not be an impediment in the way of free and fair elections when his tenure is over. In this regard, the president again committed to Ghana's democratic accountability and good governance. His comment follows up coup d'etats in Guinea and Mali after their former leaders altered the terms and limits.
Republic of Ghana and current chair of the Authority of ECOWAS States and Governments, I pledge to continue to respect the tenets of the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance, and specifically the following. I will not make or cause to be made any substantial modification to the electoral laws in the last 6 months before the next election. I will respect the two-term limit for the exercise of presidential authority as stipulated in the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. I will not be an impediment to the conduct of free and fair, transparent elections. I'll hand over power to the next elected president on 7th January 2025. And I will rally my fellow ECOWAS heads of state to take the pledge and support them as they continue to work towards democracy and good governance in their respective countries.
December 8th is the National Women Physicians Day. It is the birthday of the first female Ghanaian doctor, Dr. Susan Ofori-Atta, and celebrates the contribution of female doctors to the medical profession. President Kufuor Addo described Dr. Susan Ofori-Atta as a woman who blazed the trail for other women to follow and deserves the needed recognition.
Many say people and events that have contributed to making a society must be hailed for their sacrifices, and therefore 8th December recognizes not only the strides by generations of women doctors, but also to inspire young girls nurturing the idea of becoming medical doctors in future. The day is also used to eulogize a pioneer in the medical field and a feminist in the history of Ghana, Dr. Susan Ofori-Atta, who against all odds strived to become the first Ghanaian medical doctor. The president of the National Women Association of Ghana, Dr. Mariam Opon-Owusu, said women have contributed immensely to the medical profession in Ghana and deserve to be celebrated.
The National Executive Committee and members have agreed on the 8th of December as our day, in memory of our exemplary trailblazer, Dr. Susan Barbara Jankroma Ofori-Atta.
The president of the Medical Women International Association, Dr. Elina Imwandinobi, said those who blaze the trail for other women to follow have earned honor.
As we honor Dr. Susan Barbara Ofori-Atta as the first female Ghanaian doctor, let's remember ourselves as we rise to leave the ladder for others to rise.
The president, Nana Kufuor Addo, said Dr. Susan Ofori-Atta was pivotal in the development of the profession and current doctors must also follow suit.
Auntie, as we called her, added her own luster to this galaxy of stars by becoming the first female doctor in our nation's history and left there an indelible mark. A born leader who was the first senior girls prefect at Achimota School. She was the 4th West African woman to earn a university degree and the 3rd West African woman to become a physician. I want to say to members of this association, and indeed to doctors across the country, that you are also active citizens and you should bring doctors' perspectives to public issues.
3 distinguished female doctors were honored for their contribution to the medical profession. They are Professor Efua Hesse, DCOP retired, Dr. Mabel Abua, and Dr. Miriam Opon Owusu for contributing to the medical profession in the country.
Congratulations are in order. Now, Ghana and Guyana have signed a framework agreement on cooperation. It is designed to actualize the growing strategic partnership between the two countries. The agreement covers cooperation, petroleum and investment. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia and his Guyanese counterpart, Dr. Barrett Jadeo, witnessed the initialing of the document in Georgetown, Guyana.
Under this three-area framework agreement, Accra and Georgetown will advance their cooperation with the objectives of contributing to the development of their resources. It will ensure that the programs and projects resulting from the agreement are in accordance with the policy and development plan in the respective countries. This is expected to further give support to the internal efforts to attain the objectives of social and economic development. The cooperation agreement includes exchange of information, professional training through programs of visits, granting of scholarships for technical and professional specialization, and implementation of joint projects of technical cooperation in areas of mutual interest. Under the Petroleum Pact, Ghana's Petroleum Commission and Guyana's Ministry of Natural Resources will collaborate to advance the framework agreement. This may be in the areas of legal, fiscal, and technical support services, non-technical support, and assistance, and other related areas. On its part, the GIPC and its Guyanese counterpart will work to create conducive relations to support trade and investment promotion activities in both countries. The agreement is valid for a 5-year period and shall be renewed automatically for successive periods for equal duration unless the party mutually agrees otherwise, or either of them terminates it in accordance with the provisions of the agreement.
Players in the water, sanitation and hygiene sector are discussing a workable path to acquire funding for activities in the sector. Under the supervision of the Netherlands Embassy in Accra, a 5-year program dubbed From Possible to Profitability, P2P, has been phased in. It is a project seeking to improve access to finance in the sector.
Catalyzing on water sanitation and hygiene from possible to profitable, P2P, is a 5-year project with funding by the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. It stems from the fact that private sector players within Ghana's wash sector find it increasingly difficult to access finance for their activities from traditional financial institutions, and this has resulted in weak linkages across the water and sanitation service and value chains. The Wash Financing Forum is determined to find sustainable means of finance for sector players to work on their projects. Madam Theresa Bafo is project manager of the Wash P2P initiative.
As sector players, we believe that access to finance plays a major role if, as a country, we want to increase our access to wash services delivery and also provide quality wash services. So I believe the learnings from this project that looked at having lower interest rate helps, and then also capacity building for SMEs to have more viable businesses, and then an open engagement with the private sector, because really as a country we are now moving beyond aid to trade, and it's at this time that we have to start looking at having discussions with the private sector on what works, what does not work, and how best to move forward.
A representative from the CONWAS, Mr. Ataahi, said financing is critical to improving sanitation issues in the country.
In Ghana, 3,600 people die every year, according to UNICEF, because of diarrhea. And diarrhea is basically the result of poor sanitation and contaminated water. And this is something we can address. Water and sanitation we call a catalyst for growth and socio-economic development. When you address your water and sanitation, you are addressing your health, your education, and all other sectors of the economy.
Players in the water, sanitation and hygiene sector are calling for the establishment of a fund which has a sustainable source of inflows to support efforts in the sector.
The West Africa Examination Council, WAEC, has officially released the provisional results of candidates for the 2021 West Africa Senior School Certificate Examination, WASC. The council says it will make available login details to heads of school to enable them to print the statement of results of their candidates. Candidates are therefore advised to contact their heads of school for their result. Meanwhile, the council has hosted the results online, and candidates who so desire may access their results at the council's website or dial the short code number *944#.
In a statement signed by the head of public affairs, Mrs. Agnes Kujo said a total of 446,352 candidates, made up of 221,439, representing 49.6% males, and 224,913, representing 50.4% females, from 965 schools entered for the examination. This figure is 18.8% higher than the 2020 figure of 375,763. A total of 3,545, representing 0.79% of the candidates who registered were absent from the examination. A total number of 1,339 subject results and 174 entire results have been cancelled for various examination malpractices, such as bringing foreign material, including mobile phones, into the examination hall, tearing off parts of question papers, and collusion. This follows the approval of the 31st meeting of the Ghana Examinations Committee held in October 2021. According to the statement, the entire results of 3,667 candidates have been withheld pending the conclusion of investigations into various cases of examination malpractice detected during and after the conduct of the examination. The scripts of candidates from 194 schools in certain subjects have also been withheld and are being scrutinized. The withheld results of candidates may be cancelled or released based on the outcome of the investigations.
A national standardized test, NST, for primary 4 students will be administered on December 17, 2021. The standardized test is spearheaded by the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service. Following this development, all basic schools in the country will vacate on the same day, December 17. Meanwhile, the Ghana National Council of Private Schools is not too sure whether students in the private schools will be part of the process after a meeting with the Ministry of Education that the exams will cover both the public and private schools starting next academic year. GBC News earlier spoke with the National Executive Director of the Ghana National Council of Private Schools, Mr. Enoch Jitoa, who said the National Standardized Test is a pilot program which will have the private schools participating next year.
The main purpose of this introduction or the NSAT is to have a track record or a database of all learners who have been in schools. You know, as we speak now, it is only end of course assessment, that is BEC, that we can rely on it that this child has done this. By the time you are writing the BEC, a child may be confronted with so many things that they may not be able to see the actual performance of the child. So having these intervention programs in place, one, it will help the teachers to bring out all the remediation matters to support the teaching and learning material, or let's say the teaching and learning activities we have in the school. The meetings that we have had with the Ministry of Education and the 8 agencies, the one that is happening coming Friday or 17th December, which happens to be the maiden edition, the private schools across the country will not be participating. And in a sense that this is a pilot project that the government will want to test the waters to see how we can roll out a nationwide assessment through all the schools.
The National Media Commission says on December 2nd, 2021, it issued a cease and desist letter to the management of Unua FM to address unprofessional and insightful broadcasts in which a presenter of the station called for insurrection against the state and its institutions. The presenter had called for an uprising in Ghana and expressed surprise at the lack of response from the military and other institutions. A statement signed by the Executive Secretary of the NMC, Mr. George Sapon, says, in writing to management of Unua FM, the NMC had hoped that the station could bring its content in line with acceptable standards. The Media Commission says it has become aware of a statement in which management of the station sought to suggest that the appalling conduct of the presenter was in line with freedom of expression. Secondly, the statement says management of Unua FM in their response to the NMC left the matter in issue and rather grieved over complaint settlement procedures which had nothing to do with the cease and desist letter. And the NMC says it is therefore unclear whether management of Unua FM appreciates the regulatory imports of these actions. In the Savannah region now, 9 persons, including a toddler, have been confirmed dead in an accident at Gendambo in the Sola Tuna Kalba district of the Savannah region. According to the police, the driver of the war-bound bus with registration number GT 5693-15 allegedly lost control over the steering wheel and veered off the road. It subsequently somersaulted and entered a ditch. Meanwhile, an emergency physician at the Upper West Regional Hospital, Dr. Stephen Emmanuel Blankson, said 14 injured persons who were brought to the emergency ward of the hospital are responding to treatment. He said one of the injured was pregnant while 3 were children.
3 of them were children. And the 11 adults, out of the 11 adults, 1 of them was pregnant. They had varying degrees of, injuries, but about 5 of them were severely injured and 1 is in critical condition. So she had to be admitted at the ICU and be put on a life-saving machine. No mortalities have been recorded in our facility yet regarding those that were.
You're watching News Hour live on GTV and JBC News. We are back after this break this day.
You're watching the business news brought to you by MTN and Whirlpool. My name is Esther Eidu Ohumeu. The 2021 International Civil Aviation Organization Day has been marked in Accra at a flag-raising ceremony under the auspices of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority. There was a call to reinforce global awareness of the importance of civil aviation and the unique role the organization plays in helping nations to cooperate in a global air transport network.
In 1996, the UN General Assembly officially designated December 7 as International Civil Aviation Organization (ICAO) Day. The organization coordinates, promotes, and ensures safe, efficient, and effective conduct of civil air transportation. Most civil aviation authorities, airlines, airports, and air navigation service providers have not yet fully recovered from the devastating impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since becoming a contracting ICAO state on May 9, 1958, Ghana, through the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority (GCAA), complied with the standards and recommended practices of the UN Specialized Aviation Agency. Ghana obtained an effective implementation or EI rate of 89.89%, the highest by an African country, after ICAO concluded its coordinated validation mission in April 2019. And in October 2019, ICAO also conferred 2 prestigious awards, one in safety compliance and the other in aviation security compliance, on Ghana at its 40th Triennial Assembly in Montreal, Canada. At a ceremony to mark the day, the Deputy Director General of GCAA, Ms. Juliet Okai, said as a regulatory agency for an air transport in Ghana, GCAA remains committed to its core mandate by licensing air transport operations, maintaining oversight of aviation safety and security.
Within the context of the COVID-19 pandemic and the sectorial recovery we are witnessing across the globe, aviation industry, we as stakeholders of the industry must recognize the air transport priorities confronting the world.
The theme for this year's ICAO Day is Advancing Innovation for Global Aviation Development.
In 2020, non-traditional exports amounted to $2.84 billion compared to the $2.89 billion recorded in 2019. This represents a 1.84% decline in NT earnings for last year. At the launch of the report on 2020 analysis of the NT sector, the Chief Executive of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Dr. Ifwa Sabiasari, said the authority is stepping up its efforts to ensure that numbers from the NTE sector improves year after year. For the last 5 years, Ghana's non-traditional exports (NTEs) have grown at an annual rate of 2.55% and contributed 19.67% to the total national merchandise exports in 2020. In 2020, the NTE sector registered a marginal decline of 1.84% compared to the previous year. Despite the decline, the top 10 leading exports of the entire non-traditional export sector, as well as the top 10 leading products of the processed, agricultural and arts and crafts subsectors, showed an average growth of 24.11%, 21.28%, 13.49% and 472.81% respectively. At the launch of the report, the Chief Executive of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Dr. Ifwa Asabiasari, spoke of efforts being put in place to meet the $25 billion export target in the next 10 years as stated in the National Export Development Strategy.
The strategy envisages major activities at the district level in collaboration with the metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies to strengthen the local economy and in the end reaching the target of USD 25.3 billion within the 10-year implementation period. We remain committed to ensuring product transformation and value addition as part of our mandate as an agency of the Ministry of Trade and Industry and in alignment with Pillar 1 of the National Export Development Strategy.
A Deputy Director of Research, Mr. Emmanuel Kwao, said the highest contributing subsector, which is the processed and semi-processed sector, accounted for 83.71%, to the total non-traditional exports for 2020, despite registering a decline of 2.94% as compared to 2019. This was followed by the agriculture subsector, with the arts and crafts subsectors registering a growth of 15.21% and 110.88% respectively.
The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, (COPEC), says government's directive to GOIL to drop fuel prices by 15 pesos per litre is unsustainable. The chamber fears the move will not favour GOIL, as it will cost the company 9 million cedis every month. Players in the energy sector argue that GOIL is listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange and hence its market share will not favour shareholders in the short run. COPEC is also concerned the move will compel other oil marketing companies in the downstream to adjust their prices, which will not make them break even. COPEC is, however, certain that situating the taxes within the context of international market prices will be a long-term measure and a more sustainable alternative for better fuel pricing for consumers. Let's have the interbank and commodity figures for the day. And that was business brought to you by MTN and Whirlpool. Thanks for watching.
You are live on News Hour. Welcome to the energy segment. I'm Dominic Honoji. As part of his two-day state visit to Ghana, Sierra Leone's Vice President Dr. Mohamed Jallow has visited the Ghana Greek company Greco in Tema. The visit, according to the delegation, is to share experiences and also learn best practices in Ghana's energy sector. Sierra Leone has one of the lowest electricity access rates in the world. Until recently, access was about 16%. The present government managed to increase access to 31%. The country is faced with generation, transmission and distribution network problems. With support from the Millennium Challenge Corporation and other development partners, the country is embarking on reforms to improve the power sector. The high-power delegation, led by Vice President Dr. Mohamed Jude Jallow, is in Ghana to learn best practices to replicate to boost power supply in Sierra Leone. Dr. Jallow observed that Ghana made major strides in the energy sector and it is proper to learn from her experience.
We are here to learn from some of the good, excellent work you have been doing, and also to take cognizance of the challenges and how you manage to overcome some of those challenges. So our visit here today is to get a deeper insight into the work of GRIDCO and how, from our end, we can also learn from what you are doing and also to begin to build a collaboration that will help us in our drive to transform the energy sector.
The board chairman of GRIDCO, Mr. Cabral Blay Amihie, said energy is important in every country's economic growth, making it necessary for consistent investment to sustain the sector. The chief executive of GRIDCO, Mr. Ebenezer Esinyi, said the company will support Sierra Leone to achieve energy sufficiency.
We are ready to guide you in any aspect of our works. The traps that we fell in, what we learned, what is it that we must do going forward? You just need to call on us and we'll gladly come and assist.
The delegation toured the facilities to have first-hand information on the operations of GRIDCO. A national dialogue on sustainable charcoal and fuel wood production has taken place in Tamale, the northern regional capital, to discuss matters pertaining to deforestation, free fuel, wood and charcoal production. It was organized by the Ghana Federation of Forest and Farm Producers, GAFRA, in collaboration with its partners, including Food and Agriculture Organization, GIZ, and Energy Commission.
Charcoal and fuel wood provide more than 80% of energy used in sub-Saharan Africa, with only a small proportion of this produced sustainably, according to the World Agroforestry Center. In Ghana, charcoal and fuel wood are a popular choice for cooking and heating in both rural and urban areas, as they are locally available and by far the cheapest option compared to electricity, kerosene and cooking gas. It is estimated that approximately 69% of rural and urban households make use of charcoal or fuel wood as a major source of energy. However, since charcoal and fuel wood are produced mainly from naturally occurring tree resources through unsustainable ways, forest resources are under increasing threat. Many say urgent nation attention must be brought to the unsustainable charcoal and fuel wood production approaches. The dialogue session was attended by representatives of charcoal producers, traditional authorities, government and non-governmental organizations from the Savannah Ecological Zone. The event was to create a platform for key stakeholders in the sector to explore actionable policy and practice alternatives that can be brought to scale for sustainable wood energy value chains in Ghana. The Secretary to GAFAP National Executive Committee, Mr. Mark Kebu Akbaribu, called for a paradigm shift in the existing narrative towards working closely with smallholder producers to adopt alternatives such as grass charcoal and the use of agri-residue for briquette.
Export of power to neighboring countries within the last 24 hours increased by 1.5878 gigawatt hours from 4.4982 gigawatt hours to 6.086 gigawatt hours. Ghana's overall hydrothermal and solar generation was 64.9652 gigawatt hours in the last 24 hours. Here are some more details.
For hydro energy generated in the past 24 hours, Akosombo recorded 16.6530 gigawatt hours, Pon 2.9930 gigawatt hours, and Bui 5.7733 gigawatt hours. Here is what functional thermal power producers contributed to the generation mix within the period. The 3 hydropower plants produced 25.4193 gigawatt hours. Operational thermal power plants contributed 39.3336 gigawatt hours, and total solar generation was 0.2123 gigawatt hours. Total power generation was 64.9652 gigawatt hours in the last 24 hours. For hydrology, the water level in the Akosombo Lake was 82.345 meters below the maximum level of 84.73 meters, while the level in the Bui Dam was 178.740 meters below the maximum elevation of 183 meters in the last 24 hours.
That's it for the energy segment. I'm Dominic Honoji.
Of the news. My name is Mavis Afep Champon. This segment is brought to you by Lufat. The US and the Danish government have jointly donated 2.9 million Johnson & Johnson vaccines to Ghana. This follows that of France, donating close to 650,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccines to Ghana on Tuesday.
The part of Denmark, it's a clear example of our commitment to what we call vaccine solidarity. We do mean it when we say nobody is safe before everyone is safe. I'm especially pleased to tell you that close to 2.1 million doses have now been donated from Denmark to Ghana alone.
Data around the world is very clear. People who are usually admitted at the hospital are those that are not vaccinated. So we need to be conscious of this, and I encourage everyone to get the vaccine if you haven't done it yet.
Now it's up to Ghanaians to get the shots in their arms. Please don't wait. Getting your jab now will protect you, your family members, and your communities from serious illness.
Ghana government has not had the policy of encouraging booster yet. So boosters are not on the cards as we speak. All these vaccines are donated free of charge, and they are deployed by the government of Ghana free of charge. So if anybody charges you any amount to get vaccinated, they are breaking the law.
The health news was brought to you by Lufat, the Binko's premier gift to West Africa against malaria. We have more news after this break.